Most definitely. I want to get more into the whole like meet me at the park situation. So apparently, right now it's in its 10th anniversary for the project. So you made that in 2012, and then you've used that project to perform at like various like shows, toured all over it. Did like a lot of like promo for it. So how do you feel about like the 10th anniversary like right now for that project?
Man, first of all, time flies, which is a crazy phenomenon. It's wild, and that record will forever be a baby to me. But it's crazy to see that 10 years later, that's still probably one of my biggest records. And I'm excited to say that we have a little something special planned for the 10-year anniversary. We're going to drop a little something, something to celebrate. And yeah, I just looking back, there were so many things about that record that I did right that I didn't even realize at the time. That like now I'll look back and listen to and be like, oh, way to go, like, including the skaters and shit. Because, like, that's a whole demographic that you've been trying to tap in with. And the more you write bars including those motherfuckers, the more they're going to include you in their videos and shit. Or like small flow things or bars or whatever. Just the way it was. It was a moment in time. And I think, like, the more time that passes, the more that kind of increases in value in a way, like gem-wise. It's just like, it's a special memory that I'm really glad we captured on video. And I'm happy that we got something to celebrate the 10 year. That's going to be big.
Most definitely, man. So also you, like, as you mentioned, you relocated to a new studio, and you even like talked about it that you and Fresh Skills have owned and are both a part of since then. So how did you feel like when the old studio got demolished and you really had to like set up shop again like at this new place? So
It it definitely, like, I had to take a moment. Because it got me. Because, like, I'm tied very closely with, like, the fight against gentrification. I'm very aware of it. It's come for me. It's come for my family members multiple times. And I was hyper focused on what is going on in Toronto, which is a sort of ground zero for the Canadian housing crisis. And, I talked about it in Trouble. I was like, this shit's like a forest fire coming for my house. And there's nothing I can do about it. And it got me, and we had to move. We had no choice. All I did was just make sure that we did everything in a way that we could keep our respect and get our money back and not miss a beat. So thankfully, when we got the news, which was just after tour, which is not fun, we started looking around, and thankfully we found this spot thanks to Ozzy, and we rebuilt. And for a minute I was really bitter. If I'm being real, I was really like mad at like gentrification, and I still don't fuck with it, but I've gotten to this place mentally where it's like other people's actions don't really affect me as much as they used to, just because I can think on it in a way where it's like, okay, well, if I was in your shoes, I wouldn't be as corny, so at least there's that. But yeah, it's good to be back.
I definitely know what you mean. You gotta be bigger and then stronger than ever, like bigger and better either way. So, and it's crazy too because like we can even talk about it in the whole like concert venue scene and all that. So, old venues being torn down to come back in a sense too. I think with Silver Dollar and all that, with El Macambo, like even though they were still there, Mod Club going into like Access Club and all that. So, do you feel that there could be an upsurge on gentrification happening in other like music venues in Toronto, or like even just rebranding in that sense?
Oh, for sure. I think like we're in a period now where I don't know how much longer it's going to last because I'm not at the front of it, but we're in a period where people are kind of pyramid scheming the housing market, and there's a greater fool theory going on. So essentially everyone's trying to pawn off the thing they sold for a greater price than they paid for it. And that leaves a city full of empty buildings that are worth not what they're charging for, and no one uses these buildings because the rental is overpriced. And every apartment has been converted to an office. Every office has been converted to an apartment. Everything's backwards. Everyone's just looking at like, what's the legal minimum square footage we could get away with? And it's a profit-driven housing industry that has completely stripped any culture from Toronto one by closing venues and shutting down the ability to even interact with anyone because you're always on the clock and you're always paying rent and you're just trying to survive. And people who are just trying to survive, they ain't got time for friendship and shit like that. Like, you know, and that's all of us now. We're all in like a crab bucket, right? Where it's like we're all just struggling to fucking pay rent and keep a roof over our head. Jobs don't pay what they should. Rent is, 3 times what it was 10 years ago. Every third venue you love that you grew up with has been torn down and turned into like a TD lobby or some shit. It's like sad to see. And it just sort of coalesced with the pandemic as well in a way that, it was like having oily rags right next to a fucking fire pit. It was only natural that it was going to happen. So, I'm sad to see a lot of these venues go. I think that when shit like this happens, it forces the youth to get creative. So I think we're going to see a lot of pop-up venues. I think we're going to see a lot of pop-up shows and like secret rave type shit. But yeah, I don't know if we're going to be able to like dig ourselves out of this, hole that we're in, market-wise.